Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing Jurassic Park, directed by Steven Spielberg, The Last World, Jurassic Park, directed by Steven Spielberg, Jurassic Park 3 by Joe Johnston, Jurassic World by Colin Trevorrow, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom by J.A. Bayona, and finally newly released Jurassic World Dominion, directed by Colin Trevorrow. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Mr. Vincent Daly, how are we doing, buddy?
Hey, Tommy boy, how's it going?
It's going well for me. How was your Jurassic-filled week?
Oh, the Jurassic week.
I couldn't even spiel them off.
It's too many Jurassics.
I had to take a moment. Yeah, it is too many.
Yeah. Jurassic week was all right. I guess I can preface this. I was not a dinosaur kid. I have really no nostalgia for these movies. So
Kind of surprising, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know, because if you think about it, they are sci-fi. So it would be kind of in my sci-fi wheelhouse as growing up. But
And I'm surprised that you just weren't a
dinosaur
kid, because most kids are.
Yeah, but yeah. So just not a lot of nostalgia for these films, but with World coming out and being a conclusion to not only the sequel trilogy of Jurassic World, and then as well kind of being a callback to the original trilogy of Jurassic Park, I thought that was a good way to knock all this out.
No, I love it. I love that we did all six in this episode.
It's a meaty episode.
I'm not sure that I would want to watch all six in a week. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I can only assume. Obviously, I think I know where you're at.
Really?
I don't know. I just assume they're all going to be low. Like, I think they're all going to be shit scores.
I will say there were some surprises in the week. I would say, some notable surprises in the week.
Okay,
so,
that's good to hear.
It wasn't without enjoyment. There was definitely times of joylessness, but it wasn't without some moments that I was really liking the films and what they were about and the dinos themselves.
Okay.
So.
Well, we're going to start with the biggest one. I think this one might be my favorite. So where this is back in 1993. This is the original Jurassic Park, directed by Steven Spielberg. And, I mean, it's a big movie. I mean, who doesn't really know this film?
My first note is, like, where do I even start with this film?
Yeah, I mean, I know that I've met people that still haven't watched it, but, like, everyone knows how big it is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the book as well. So what do we have with the OG Jurassic Park?
Sure. So I think a good way to set this up is that you have kind of a lot of magic professionals working on this. It is prime Spielberg. This film is, I believe, winning 3 Oscars, all for VFX and sound. And the juggernaut himself, John Williams, is behind the score.
Yeah.
And I think I can tell you actually definitively watching all 6 of these movies, that echoes throughout all 6 of these movies. I mean, that score is not only iconic, but constantly tied to... Yeah.
To the point where you get sick of it after?
Definitely that too. But tied to the feeling of dinosaurs, I feel like, or at least with this directly.
Definitely.
So, oddly enough, I was, after this week, I was kind of scratching my head, what other dinosaur movies we could even watch. I guess there was that one Disney one...
called Dinosaur?
Where they were trying to protect the egg or whatever. So, but I think the praise that comes with those 3 bullets notes are really well deserved, folks. I think the scope of this review is first going to focus on how those technical elements hold up for a modern day watch. Special effects wise, the farther away the dinos are, the less up close we are, the better it looks. It's a shame how colorful and bright the beginnings of Jurassic Park, the first one, is. We will refer to this as JP.
Okay.
JP 123, JW 123. I'm not getting involved with Lost World. You know, the names are a mess. So for JP,
They are a mess.
Yeah.
I actually really have an issue with the names, big time.
Yeah, because it's like where do you, especially with Lost World, I feel like the second one
The first
really,
three are a mess. Yeah, it's like, what?
it throws a wrench in the works for sure. But yeah, like I was saying, I mean, it's a shame how colorful the beginning is because of how 90s the CGI is. I think right off the back, when talking about these visual effects, we have a lot of synergy between the team and Spielberg specifically. There is a monsoon type of rainstorm that is introduced in the second act, and you can see how better these effects look in shadow, in darkness, and I think that was probably very intentional, in addition to the creepiness and the scariness of the dinosaurs to it. But specifically, a highlight for me on this first one for JP1 is the restraint of how little the dinos are used sometimes. They are really left to be out in nature. Sometimes you just see the movement of the fawns or the ferns, the different plants. I think it's a positive for me because I think it shows
restraint, like you said.
Restraint, and so much this series becomes more and more about putting the craziest, unique dinos in your face. We'll talk about it a lot in JW. There is so much one-upsmanship of how rare of a dino can we get, how far from a T-Rex can we get with this, and it's just refreshing to see that it's not about just shoving it in your face.
Well, it almost makes it more menacing.
Yes,
because it's what's not on screen and what is there, but you just can't quite see it.
100%.
And I think, and good for them for 93, just going back a little bit and watching some clips of just how good this really looks for 93.
Yeah.
It is very impressive,
Absolutely.
but it's also, they know where it works and know where it doesn't, I think, and, you know, obviously, some shots might look a little aged, but they do a good job of not shoving it in your face and having it every single scene.
Absolutely.
Where you go back and watch Star Wars Episode 1, which is years later, 7 or 8 years later, and it just is god-awful in so many scenes.
It's so bad. They lean so heavily on it.
Right, and I think, like you were saying, it's tastefully done
exactly
in this first Jurassic Park.
I think Spielberg just very simply understood that he was working with a new art form or newer type of implementation of it, and had to sprinkle it in rather it be the main focus. And we see that even in JP2 and JP3 more and more, that being the focus.
Yeah.
I would say right on the piggyback of that, there is plenty of animatronic and puppet work throughout this, and it all looks great. I think ironically for the film's legacy being the, if you will, the first good-looking CGI film that JP1 has as kind of a legacy, the practical effects here probably take up a good 50% of the work.
Yeah.
Which
like
is,
you said, especially on the close-ups.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Where later on, I mean, less and less. So
and just totally relying on computer.
Yeah. And believe me, I'm not going to say just for this first trilogy, it's you know, obviously I understand that it's not going to hold up too much in time, but I think the artistry that is shown in this first one, and again, back to my opening statement around how does this hold up in a modern day watch, I think Spielberg understands that it maybe looks a little bit rough, and he has to kind of, time-proof it, if you will. So
yeah. And overall, even with those, even where CGI is used and it looks a little rough, overall, would you say it holds up to the test of time? Because so much is spent on close-ups of the dinosaurs or like one-on-one with the dinosaurs?
Yes. I think where the CGI doesn't hold up is primarily in daytime. And ironically enough, it is really that first shot with the brontosauruses that the big music swells and they first see it. That's probably the roughest looking CGI
when they're in the park originally and they're just seeing the glory of it and the awe of it.
Yeah, that's probably the roughest looking versions or implementation of it in the whole film, because pretty soon darkness falls over the island and it looks all very good.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, story-wise, we follow three scientists: Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern, and then Ian Malcolm, played by the irreplaceable Jeff Goldblum, who makes a few more appearances in this. They are brought to the experimental Jurassic Park to find the faults in the eccentric park. And the eccentric park owner, I should say, John Hammond, played by Richard Attenborough. I would say the beginning is brief. It gets us right into the park. We experience the amazement through our characters' eyes at the same time, and I just love how snappy the beginning of this film is. It really is. It really is top notch. I actually love how much the script is focused on poking at the philosophy of cloning and gene manipulation. I'll go into it in just a second, but maybe this was hot at the time, those type of, I don't know, whenever they cloned the sheep or whatever, in the 90s. I don't know. I don't know if that was even in the 90s.
I have no idea.
The sheep cloning, was that thing? Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, I like how much the script is poking at these type of concepts, because guess what? Our characters are scientists. They're not action heroes.
Yeah.
They are not, adventure stars. They are scientists. And so much of why this script is electric and still holds up today is because our characters act logically to what they actually are. And they're brought to the island not to put down the dinos or do anything with them. They're there to study and see if this is a feasible experiment for it. And I think that's so good as script writing.
Makes it more believable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The characters are actually doing what the characters are. I mean, that's just a huge positive for me. I think it's just so enjoyable seeing scientists on screen work through the plot, being inquisitive and critical. I think it is not only well crafted as a story, but it is really, just such a unique way to tell the story through the eyes of scientists. They're not action heroes. And I bring this up, and I'm focusing on this so much for folks at home. More and more, we see our characters become catch-alls. They do it all.
Yeah.
They turn on an action hero's flip of the switch out of nowhere, and so much is that is my core criticism of the films later on. So I can't understate how satisfying it is in this first one that I was still thinking 6 movies in, to just like, how did they not learn that if we're going to be following scientists, maybe they interact with the stakes a little bit differently. They interact with the conflict of the plot a little bit differently. So
I love that take on it.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm sure you're upset that it devolved more and more.
Oh, for sure. Devolved is right. Spiraled. Death dive. Yeah. So it's rough, but later on. But for this first one, it's good, and I just want to really praise that. I think really the writing is the strongest element of this. It's an excellent example of setup and payoff in a blockbuster movie. Constantly we are seeing the setup being little insight fed to us of how the dinos work, the science behind them. It makes sense for our characters to be delivering this exposition, because guess what? They're really nerdy about this stuff. They are scientists.
Yeah.
And it's such a great type of setup for it, where the payoff comes when shit's finally hitting the fan. We experience the same type of fear that our characters do, because they've established these little aspects, these little nuggets of information that we can recognize as danger as they recognize as danger. A great example of this is different poisons the dinosaurs has, ground shaking, the weight of the dinosaurs. These are little cues that the film uses strategically later on to create that payoff, and a great example of that type of writing tool with it. Just very tight, and definitely worth that type of classic, that classic description of this movie for that reason.
Yeah.
It holds up.
I think for sure, and I think just because, like you said, you have characters playing believable parts and doing it well, and when you're dealing with such like intense and scary things, it's just really a terrifying situation that they're put in.
Right.
I think it works, and that's why it still holds up. I think you make a great point.
Absolutely. And more than anything, I really don't see much wrong with this film. I can maybe tear apart how the park becomes, outrageously dangerous out of nowhere. Like, how is it feasible up until this point? I definitely wasn't in love with some kid actors in this movie, but it really is in the DNA of all 6 of these films, because we got to have kid actors.
Of course, yeah.
And I think a lot of that is honestly kind of falls into more pointless nitpicking. I think in the execution, there is just such great character writing. There is such great attention to detail and special effects. And it's enjoyable to participate in the plot because we really are experiencing Jurassic Park first time with these scientists. And guess what? These scientists as characters get us up to speed. I think, maybe in my dream of dreams, if this was a rated R, my dream project after 6 movies still unrealized is a rated R Jurassic Park. I would really love that. Especially for how idiotic some characters in later films are. But I will say it is a great adventure movie, and I really want to lean into that adventure movie because very rarely do we see any of the remaining 5 sequels. I cannot call them adventure movies. They become action movies. And I think that's part of the magic that...
Having the element of the park itself
Yes.
and the park be such its own character is huge.
And maybe our
to its
characters
success.
being powerless.
Yeah.
They're not action stars. So I think that is so key to it. This movie really did live up to its classic status with that. Maybe not for the CGI, as I thought in my kind of initial scope of this, but I think it is for a classic for how tastefully it balances a lot of what it has to offer, whether that be characters, whether that be the dinosaurs themselves, or some of the deeper, heady plots of what we're dealing with gene manipulation. We're going to go ahead and give JP1 Jurassic Park an 81.
Ooh, an 81 is a fantastic score.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
It's so nice that this huge movie that everyone knows, most of us have seen, it deserves its actual praise.
Absolutely.
It's not big just because it happens to be a big name that everyone feels like they have to give a good score for.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
And believe me, I can nitpick with the best of them. I really do think it is pointless in this film because it's so tight otherwise. You know, I mean, maybe there's some things I don't care for flavor-wise, but it really is a well-crafted film throughout. Tiebacks and setup and payoff and good characters, just great.
Okay, so we're starting off with an 81. It's going to be interesting to see where we go from here. So obviously with the huge success of this film, with Steven Spielberg behind it, they come back at it again. This is now in 1997. It's 4 years later. Steven Spielberg is again helming the film at directing. This is The Lost World, Jurassic Park, with Jeff Goldblum taking really the lead role here. And then 4 years later, what's it like returning? So,
this goes from 3 Oscar wins to 1 nomination. Like you introduced, pretty much same recipe here. We have Spielberg once again. I don't think in this case that was a good thing, but hey, we'll get into it. And we also have John Williams here too.
Yeah.
All the same ingredients, but so much weaker. I think the story really jumps through serious hoops to get us back to the island, or a second kind of proto-island, if you will, in this. And the result of it is it just makes more of an action movie and sets the tone for the spotty sequels that we see in the series coming forward. So I think the problem with this movie is the opening premise, the hook. It is just so impossibly weaker. There is a moment early on where Goldblum is summarizing the stakes and what he is up against and what they're showing, they're up against, and it just sounds like the most pride open story. There was such a nice bow on the end of
a very
Jurassic
complete
Park.
package.
Yes, very complete, and it is the jaws of life trying to rip this story open again, to get something out of it, get a sequel made, and honestly, the pacing is a nightmare for this. People are just showing up, doing things out of nowhere. There is very little coherence to it. We really haven't talked about it on the podcast before, but I would refer to this as sequelitis, which has been kind of a term on the internet for some time. Sequelitis, what it means to me is that when you have a slower, weaker version of the first film's plot brought to the forefront to try to make this sequel. It's basically a slower beginning because we have to catch up to what our characters have been doing. Then we have to build that stakes once again, and then we finally get into the action. It's the doomed plot that a lot of sequels have to fight against, you know.
Well, the problem is, I mean, what it comes down to is the whole thing of just trying to capture magic in a bottle a second time around. And because, again, you have the book of Jurassic Park.
Sure.
And then with the film, and it's just...
And I think this might have been a book as well. I don't know too much into it, but yeah, it's
But the fact is, you had that complete package.
Yeah.
And because movie studios and money, it's like, well, we need to keep this going.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, just like you said, the catching up with characters and then the prying open and you can't recreate that fear and how dramatic that first one is.
Sure.
Because it's just... In any sense, it's been there, done that as well. So how do you capitalize on it?
Exactly.
So you have a weaker setup and trying to do more, and it's really a recipe for failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me personally, I mean, how did this? You have Jeff Goldblum helming it. You have Vince Vaughn is in it.
Oh, yeah.
This has me all over it.
Yeah. And it's a shame because so much time is just spent trying to create interest into, you know, why go back to the park where, you know, by the end of the first one, the characters are saying never again. You know, they're literally saying never again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just ridiculous. So a great example of the setup in this film, or rather I should say the great example is in the setup of this film. Instead of nuggets of information around the dinos being dropped throughout it by scientists, instead we have nuggets of information around the capacity of the expedition and how they will repel the dinos if it goes bad. Those are the nuggets of information that is dropped, and because the payoff is about action now, the entire adventure of the story has been abandoned. You know, my note here is all science is dead, basically.
Okay.
And that's the real shame of it, because clearly they looked at the success of Jurassic Park and said, oh, people love the dinos, people love the scares of it.
Of course.
And I really think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what works about, you know, Jurassic Park 1, or at least for me, you know. When it comes to, you know, why all of this doesn't work is that I think really just the writing is not there. Characters act like such idiots near constantly, and it's just such a far cry from my praise of the logic and the character writing in one. I mean, a real 180. It is crazy. Let's run down that list a little bit. We got Jeff Goldblum, which is a plus acting wise. I mean, Goldblum is a fan of both Tom and I, folks at home. It is.
Does he fit in that category of? I feel like he would be one of the most competent characters. Is that right?
Sure.
Is that right or no?
I think it's a funnier movie for Jeff's inclusion, but they put him on the sidelines. I mean, I know I agree with what you're saying that Jeff is the lead here.
Yeah,
but I feel like so much time of him on screen is. He's doing kind of his mumbling, rambling, you know, shtick, if you will.
Okay.
But he's not really doing anything of consequence for the story. You know what I mean? He's not really doing anything to progress the story along specifically. That is on other characters' plates, and the other characters already
are
on
idiots. Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a shame because I don't think he gets as much screen time as he should, and definitely not for how substantial as a character he is, even for this entire 6-movie run. You know what I mean? He is a serious, you know, main character.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
That. Vince Vaughn is here chewing gum for the entirety of the film.
I forgot about that.
He is chewing a lot in this, and I guess that's his shtick. But I think he's enjoyable. I think my praise for Vince Vaughn probably adds to that. This is a much funnier movie than the first movie. It's probably on the shoulders of Goldblum and Vaughn.
Okay, gotcha.
Alone.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that those two guys are doing okay.
They're surviving with this skin.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore, though, who I'm usually a fan of. I mean, even most recently to the Paul Thomas Anderson Boogie Nights review.
Oh yeah.
You know, really a fan of her acting. She is just the absolute worst here. Her character contradicts herself near constantly, and just the performance is lacking so much. The character's in a relationship with Jeff, but honestly, I mean, there is next to no chemistry. Not that there's great romance, if you will, in these first three movies, and certainly it feels forced in the Jurassic World trilogy.
Yeah.
But it's extra noticeable. Against all odds, the kid actor is good. Vanessa Lee Chester, I believe her name is the actress.
Yeah, Vanessa Chester, yep.
And not only is she better than probably both kids combined in the first one, but she is better than most of the adult actors in this. And there's even some lines dedicated to her that's like, wow, I mean, she's really smarter than most characters on screen and how she's thinking. So
they don't keep her as a dumb kid. They actually keep her as one of the competent characters.
Yeah. And maybe that's a stylistic choice in itself, but I think it is a bad sign if I am praising real kid actors. Well, kid actors over real actors, I should say. So let that speak volume. But visual effects wise, I think this is the slippery slope. It's leaning heavier and heavier into CGI sequences, and obviously weaker for it, at least for these next two movies. While we're still in late '90s, to mid to late '90s, it's tough because this is an action film, and any chance of not seeing dinos is gone, which I know that sounds weird, but I do have to stress it works with less. It builds a fear, especially when the payoff for all these films is kind of a PG-13 horror film, in ways. It's always going to be, dinos going crazy. So there is a good amount of puppet animatronic work. I would say that that's a note for me for this one, for JP2 specifically, because it is really going to go away very drastically for a while. and when it's there, maybe sprinkled in Jurassic World trilogy, it's almost, it's inconsequential. It's almost like a callback. It's like a nostalgia grab, honestly.
Okay.
A slight positive in this is the tech, actually. I enjoyed the guns, the truck, the machinery. If this is going to be an action film, I did kind of enjoy the 90s-ness of it. I mean, believe me, obviously, I know this is just toy fodder. This is just for the toy sales. My cynical brain will kick in, but I did enjoy it. It was cool tech, cool action movie tech. So
that's okay.
Yeah, it's
a tick in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. A tick in the wrong direction is that this introduces this franchise's relationship with Mercedes-Benz quite a bit. Mercedes is all over this.
I thought the first one too. Or no, they're Jeeps.
Yeah, they're Jeeps.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and I also found it very funny because these Mercedes aren't those like orange-green dino colors. They had to have like serious vehicles.
It's like we're not messing around
here. Yeah. I mean, my quick note with that is just with the ad placement. It's not egregious. It's certainly not Sonic the Hedgehog, but when it comes to some of this ad placement, I mean, it's going to depend, folks at home, how sensitive you are to that stuff. I'm not going to overly knock the movie for it because I think it wasn't anything beyond just the camera hanging on the front of a Mercedes for a couple seconds longer, which realistically, that's not going to make a difference for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But it is something to note because this film kicks it off and it's sprinkled through all the films throughout then. Okay. So Mercedes is... They're in bed with each other. So,
where the Jeeps are almost iconic, and
the color palette.
They were shoved in your face, but they were cool. Like you wouldn't think. I don't know. You didn't think you were watching a Jeep ad.
Exactly.
But here we're taking that turn.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
okay.
I don't know how, honestly, this film is such a weak sequel, though. About a 1 hour in, and it finally hits a tiny bit of a stride. Basically, when all of the forces are kind of collected together so that they're against the dinos, but this film does really little to grab the audience, and it honestly is very frustrating how the characters aren't really characters. They are just service to get us in front of more dinos, and I think there's just I can't tell you how fundamental of a misunderstanding that is to what worked in the first film. That yes, the first film is absolutely about dinosaurs, and some PG-13 action with those dinosaurs, but
It's so much more.
yeah, that's not why you call the first one a classic, and that's certainly not why you call the first one any kind of a magical movie, as a lot of people would describe it, and I can definitely get behind that, even without that nostalgia. JP2 just again. Not to use a catch-all term, but sequelitis. It is doomed to fail, just being a follow-up to such a classic movie, but also fails on its own merits quite a bit in just being very generic. And again, these characters are just fodder to get us closer to dinosaurs, and they're acting dumb as a result of that. So we're going to go ahead and give The Lost World, Jurassic Park, a 38.
Oh, my gosh.
Catastrophic downturn.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
Yeah.
I thought maybe in the 50s or something like that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a big drop. That's a big drop off.
Yeah, a lot of fan consensus online is this one is, just slightly worse than Jurassic Park 1. I disagree with that.
You think it's definitely a big jump?
I think
that is a big jump.
Yeah,
81 to a 38.
Yeah, this is right in line. Well, we've got plenty to talk about, so I'm just gonna hold it right there. we got 4 more movies.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna go back now. Now we're in 2001. This is just.
Oh, it's 2001.
Yeah. It's not late
okay.
90s. Yeah, it's 2001. It's Jurassic Park 3. Sam Neill is back. Sam Neill turned down the role of Elrond in the Lord of the Rings in order to do Jurassic Park 3.
Oh, I bet that stinks.
I remember watching Jurassic Park 3 and remembering it, like, this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoyable, but this is a bad movie.
Yeah.
Again, Jurassic Park 3, Vin, what did we get?
Yeah, this has a big bad reputation for being the worst of the original 3. We of course part ways with Spielberg here.
Yes.
And also get the first of the series that is under 2 hours. I believe this clocks in at like an hour and 32.
Hour 32. The other ones were what? 2 and The Lost World was 2 hours and 9 minutes.
Yep.
And the first one was like 2 hours and 7 or something like that.
Exactly.
Actually, it is. It's only an hour and a half.
Yeah. And in ways that's a positive, but definitely highlights some of the very inconsequential writing to it. It's very popcorn writing. They're not really focused with making a story about science or dinosaurs or anything.
Is this when it steps into the action realm, you would say?
I would say it's maybe a slight step back. It is a little bit more adventure than action with Jurassic Park 3, but it is... Yeah, it's just got some of the weakest aspects as well. It's a shame because they're definitely trying to recapture a little bit of what worked in JP1 versus JP2, but yeah, part of that is it really is the weakest premise yet among our main actors this time. Sam Neill is returning and back into the action. His engagement of how to get to Jurassic Park again. I'm scratching my head over because by the end of Jurassic Park 1, everyone is saying never again. Never again.
What is our what is our premise here?
He's doing his not anthropology. Why can't I think archaeology thing? And he has a struggling program, and he needs money. So when there is a pair, a group of individuals that come to him and are trying to give money to his program, that's kind of what gets him skin in the game.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's a slippery slope from there.
And it's just
that right there. Doesn't that sound weak?
Well, yeah, sure.
It's like almighty dollar, it'll get you there.
And it's just assumed and okay. It's just like, oh no, Jurassic Park is back open, and that's just how it is.
It's still this second island. It's an abandoned island after Jurassic Park 2. Now the parents of a child need an expert to help find the kid. That's not there initially, though. That's kind of unpacked once they get to the island.
Okay.
Again, folks, I mean, if you're worried about even mild spoiler, this is all within like 10 minutes. This movie moves along at a breakneck speed because they only have an hour and 30, and they got to fit a lot of dinos in here. So, but when it comes to Sam Neill's character getting involved in this, it's just there's no joy. He doesn't want to go to the island.
It's weak.
Yeah, it's weak. There's no excitement to the island.
Right.
Where there is hesitation in going to the island because they're like, what is this?
Right.
Is this something shady? What's going on? But there is excitement there. And that's what I think really fails about this film is that it's
I mean, in
really
the first one there was excitement.
Yes.
Yeah.
JP3, it fails because, Sam Neill's character, yes, he is supposed to be this grumpy archaeologist that believes in old dinosaurs and not these new gene-modified dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
But it really just really slows a lot of the enjoyment down as a result. It's a shame because, again, it's trying to capture more of an adventure versus action.
Right.
But it's almost shot in the foot by including Sam Neill's character. This movie has the dumbest characters yet. No longer are we dealing with just dumb businessmen or dumb military men, but we have just dumb parents, which unlocks a new level of stupid. We have William H. Macy and Téa Leoni, which, again, both equally, I like as actors. Especially
Right.
William H. Macy. Well, once again, this is going back to the Paul Thomas Anderson episode that we did.
Was he in?
A standout. He was in Magnolia as a standout.
Ah, okay.
So, I like these actors quite a bit, but it's just, man, it is just the worst. These two are the worst as the parent inserts, and it is just such my direct criticism of dumb characters in this movie or in this franchise. It's a shame because the script is not there to support it, and maybe you could say, well, it's a kid's movie. You want to maybe see the panic and the fear through parents' eyes. They lost the child on the island on like a kind of vacation. So
okay.
maybe that's a little bit gripping. But I mean, as soon as they get off the plane, they are yelling. They are like attracting dinosaurs. It's just like, oh my God. It's just
Incompetence. And incompetence is not really fun to see on screen.
Exactly.
Because it's just annoying.
Yeah. And especially for now, by this third one, there is a building universe. There is an ongoing timeline and plot line to the Jurassic Park universe that people are getting more familiar with dinosaurs and the concepts of living with dinosaurs in some way.
Right.
The fact that they're this idiotic really doesn't make sense. It's really the worst of the series. So much is thrown, our characters, so much is just our characters being thrown into the way of dinosaurs, rather than have them actually interact with the story. It really does feel like some of the criticism that Martin Scorsese would say, that it just feels like a ride. You know what I mean? We're just, there is really no story. We're just along for the ride to come across more dinos, and put that in front of our face. So maybe that plays into Universal Studios. And
Is there, because it's an hour and a half and because it's snappy and because it's like you're along for the ride and it's a dinosaur ride, is part of it because it's not trying to be intellectual at all like the first one, and it's almost like given up on that, it seems, by this third one. Is it fun?
In ways, I think Sam Neill kind of shoots the fun in the foot, because every time that there's like some wonderment or amazement around dinosaurs,
He cuts it.
He's there saying, no, these things are here to kill us. And yes, that is the reality of it, but there's a magic lost for it, for sure.
Okay, all right.
It's just a bad mix. It's
so
like,
you can't say, oh, it knows it's a bad movie. I'm watching a bad movie and this is a great time. It's really not hitting
there's
that.
a bitterness. There's an awkward bitterness to it. Yeah. Like I said, I do appreciate that it's about adventure again. It doesn't fall into the same pitfalls of JP2. There is minor cases where we see echoes of what made the first one work. There is a little bit of discovery. There is a little bit of those science facts setting up scares, that payoff setup relationship, or set up payoff relationship. But sadly, the movie is just people acting dumb and not getting killed for teases and scares. It is very unsatisfying. This film is where I was saying I want a rated R Jurassic Park. I wanted all these guys to die. I wanted all of them to be dino food.
It actually would be a great movie.
Great.
Yeah.
It'd be great. And even the the dinosaur and dinosaur combat, is it would be awesome, but that's dream project. Maybe Spielberg is interested in giving daily ratings money. We can do that.
Yeah, you can donate.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see now with the CGI and animation of it all.
Yes.
What is it like? I mean, are we really stepping away? Especially because we don't have that pet project of Steven Spielberg, because it's a different director now. What's the mix between real effects and fake.
I would say maybe it's 80% CGI, 20% practical. It's definitely
Totally
going more
flipped
and
it,
more.
basically.
Yeah, it's flipping.
Which it
more
is
and
2001. It's what's hot right
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Again, Star Wars coming out, things like that.
I think that's honestly a great example with Phantom Menace, and also a great example for maybe even just folks at home picturing how bad that can age. How bad the CGI looks. When you look back to it.
So how do the dinos look here?
The dinos look good. I think part of the praise I have for this is that the action and set pieces are slightly better than Jurassic Park 2. There is a big hit pitch here for flying dinosaurs, a pterodactyl, which honestly gave me some kind of Hitchcock bird vibes to it. It's shot interestingly.
Okay.
Honestly, another big pitch is dinosaur versus dinosaur fights. They aren't terrible, and certainly they become a main feature of the Jurassic World trilogy. There's probably one or two dinosaur versus dinosaur fights in each one of those films, so we see that being crafted here. I think while the CGI isn't great for this Dino v Dino combat, it is, once again, I want to give a little bit of credit to kind of shaking things up. It's interesting. It reminds me of more of a kaiju kind of Godzilla fight within a Jurassic Park movie.
Kind of cool. Okay.
Yeah. It opens it up a little bit. The dinosaurs themselves are much more fantastical, and I think that's where, oddly enough, the CGI kind of helps it a little bit. There are some cool designs. There's different colors. There's gene mutations in these dinosaurs, so they're changing as well. And it's 100% a preview of what we see in the Jurassic World trilogy, where that is always about the kind of the one-upsmanship of, we got to make the crazier dino. We have to put, a T-Rex doesn't do anymore. We need something else, which is so much about that sequel trilogy. That's all it's about with the dinosaurs. So
right. It's coming down to the actual, it's like the business side of the park and everything like that. And what can
True,
we? Yeah.
But I even think in the dinosaurs they put in front of the screen, a T-Rex doesn't do. They're always saying that's a something saurus. That's bigger than a T-Rex, or that's smarter than a raptor.
I see.
You know what I mean?
One-upping, because you need that all factor.
Exactly.
That you just can't really recreate.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm 50-50 on it. But I think from a bird's eye overall, the CGI, it's not great, but it is an assistance to some more dynamic action scenes, and specifically action scenes that we don't really see in the other two movies, and definitely the last of this original trilogy. So that's a little bit of a positive, if I can give that there.
Okay.
So I don't have much more to say, though. This is a short movie with an ultralight framework of a story, so the runtime is dedicated to getting dinos in front of the screen. In ways, it works better for that reason, because it is a lot more violent than the other two entries. And I can't say it's necessarily worse than 2, but it is a little bit more boring, and it has weaker survival stakes. I was really in a tough spot with this one, because online everyone says this is the worst of the 3.
Yeah.
And I was walking away with this, and I was like, no, 2's the worst.
Really?
Yeah, 2's the worst. I think so. Of the original 3, that is.
Right.
So.
And is this because of what it comes down to? Is just because it's so much more basic, and it's a very, very smaller. It's such a smaller package.
Yeah.
It's 40 minutes shorter.
It's almost not interested in telling the story. You know what I mean? It's we have to get to the island. Yeah, we got to save a kid with some parents.
Right.
But it's not interested in telling anything more. Once we're on the island, it's dinos nonstop. So in ways, because of the shorter runtime too, it's this ultralight type of story framework.
Okay.
And in ways, like I said, again,
even with the most incompetent characters, it's just like, hey, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It's just getting in front of dinos, and definitely represents the bare minimum of what you could do story wise to rush to the CGI dino action. And I would say this is most shown in the ending resolving cartoonishly fast. I mean, it comes out of nowhere. We're 2 minutes left, and it's resolved. We're good. So, but though there may be, through my review, some sprinkles of more praise throughout, it is still bare minimum. We're going to go ahead and give Jurassic Park 3 a 40 on the dot.
Okay, all right, so 2% better.
Yeah.
40 on the dot, and I think that totally, I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think there's a big shock there.
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
surprising that 2 is worse, for sure.
At
like
least
I said,
in my
I thought
opinion,
it was going to be in the 50s.
Yeah, I found myself being much more annoyed with 2 because it's trying to tell a story and it's failing at it. Where this is barely any story.
It's not even trying now.
Exactly. So.
Okay, Vin. All right, so we're going to take a break here instead of waiting for our now in theaters film. We're going to break it up because we have such a nice break where we have the first block being the first trilogy. We'll have our donation block, and then we'll go into that last trilogy. So
Absolutely.
Real quick, folks, we just want to thank those of you who produced this episode. And we do have a producer here. We have Anonymous coming in, Vin.
Okay.
And Anonymous gave the donation of, what did they give? $7.89.
Okay.
It's a $7.89 donation.
There we go.
And he wrote in a note here, so it's Anonymous. Hey guys, Anonymous here. Great show. Appreciate the reviews and the work put in. I have a question on the website, though. It seems pretty incomplete. When is it really going to be up and running? Thank you guys for your value.
A great question. We're wondering that as well.
So we appreciate that you're getting value from it, and we appreciate the value that you sent us to us. So, yeah. So, obviously, we pitch the website every week. And
Sure.
That's, you go to thedailyratings.com to go to the donations tab, as we always say. So the deal with the site is, Vin and I, over the past 5 years-ish or so, we've had somewhere around 700 films or something like that, or somewhere around, 650 films already marked down and rated.
Yeah, and taken seriously.
Right. Oh, no, absolutely. And then we started the podcast where we've now added an additional, I don't know, almost like 150 or even more. Almost, we're approaching up 200 that we've done here. So what the site is, we're going back in that back catalog and getting all the movies up and running. And then we're going to go in order then and be putting on the ones that we've reviewed in the podcast. So if you go to the site now, we have our recently rated, and that's just back catalog stuff. We're just trying to get it on the site. It takes a long time. It takes a long time per movie. And then when you times that, when we have literally hundreds. So that's why when you look at this, there's a now playing section that's completely empty. But eventually, what's going to happen is the site's going to be filled out. Our compilation page is going to be filled out and be kind of cool. We want to do like mob movie compilation in this instead of just doing genres that are on there now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the site's a little light. It is growing in films because we have this massive catalog that we have to go into. And then the cool thing is when you go into the movie, like when you click on the specific movie, then there's going to be a link, a listen to the review kind of link. So you just click that button, and it takes you to the episode. If, why did Vin give this score? Click the listen to the review. You can use the time code and go straight to it, and then you can kind of hear at least, the justification of why Vin gave the score. That's kind of how that's going to look. So yeah, it's an ongoing process. So it is incomplete. Don't worry, we are working on it, and hopefully within the coming months, it really starts to get filled out. So. But we thank you. So yes,
and thank you for using the site too.
We're glad you're on it, and we wish that in a heartbeat that it could just be completed and good to go.
Do we ever?
But I love that you're still getting some sort of value, and your value today back to us was it's a 789 donation. Like,
love it.
That's cool, and whatever that meant to that person, it was funny or whatever. So we want to thank Anonymous. You're the sole producer, the executive producer here today of the Daily Ratings, and we thank you so much. And for folks, if you want to help produce, if you want to be a producer of the show, again, we are completely producer supported. It's a value for value model. So if you find that we're providing value for you, we ask that you give some value back, and that's just a monetary donation. You can go to thedailyratings.com, go to the top right in the donation tab. You can do a weekly, you can do some monthlies, or whatever value that you want, like Anonymous did here. And if you want to be anonymous, you just click the box, and that's how that works. So
Absolutely.
Again, we just want to thank you Anonymous, and for those of you future producers, we thank you as well, and we look forward to having you for weeks and weeks to come as well. So, all right, Vince. So with that, we're going to continue. We are now in our second trilogy. They took off for, it was 14-year gap? Yes, so
yes,
here we are.
The first one was 2015.
Right, so we're back in 2015. This is Jurassic World now, introducing our brand new characters, new story. What is this? And can you break down, how did we get back to this? Are we in the same world as the original films? Or what do we have here? What's the setup
it
for
is
the
a
film?
full continuation, but it recognizes the 30-plus year gap in the events of the timeline here. For Jurassic World, I don't have any experience with the director, Colin Trevorrow. I think it's Trevorrow. We've been saying Trevorrow.
Yeah, that's sure.
But he directed this, and the new one, one. The middle one was tossed to another director. I believe this is pretty much Colin's baby, you know, as far as writing all these films. This is really his mark. So, Secret Christmas Movie. Just gotta know it. It starts on Christmas Day, you know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it.
And 30 years after the events of JP1, the corporations have fully taken over the dinos of the island. We jump ahead to the peak of a futuristic Disney World-like version of Jurassic Park in full effect. And straight up, there is a lot of enjoyment in seeing this in full effect on the screen, because when we go back to that original story of Jurassic Park 1, it's what's always being flirted. You know, we want the full Jurassic Park, you know, as an amusement park.
Right.
And as far as the sequels go, it's never even entertained having this actual operational Jurassic Park where children and families are going to see dinosaurs, and there's such a snappiness, there's such a baseline enjoyment we have to jumping into this, and once again with new eyes we see, wow, it works. We're
it's completed now.
the amazement, the bewilderment
yes.
of it.
It's not like it's opening and we need to get scientists to see if it is going to work.
Yep.
Here we are.
It's made it work over 30 years.
Right.
You know? However they did that.
Everything's cool.
Yeah. And we see it in full swing. You know, I mean, this is when I say futuristic Disney World, that really is.
I think that makes
focus.
sense. Yeah.
Right into the very naming as well. It's no longer Jurassic Park, it's Jurassic World, this kind of second iteration of it, which I think is a little clever too. So
I think you have to. I think that's the way to do it.
Exactly.
Now, did they give, like, as far as like placement in the Earth or on the Earth, do we know like where we are with the original islands, or it doesn't matter?
I believe it is the second island, the same second island that because the first island went to crap.
Okay.
And then they have the second island. So, but it is still connected to those original islands, because I believe even in this first Jurassic World, they're coming across old Jurassic Park buildings or bunkers or things like that.
Oh, okay. And they aged a little bit. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think that's one of the stronger suits about jumping into this. I'll be going into a lot of the praise that I have for this film, but it does feel great because so much of that first one is talking about Hammond's plans to what he wants to do for Jurassic Park to make it family friendly, to invite kids, you know, to create the amazement of it.
Yeah.
And just jumping into the fact that this is at the peak of the park is really enjoyable, and it's really satisfying as well. It's not in a nostalgia grabby way either. I mean, clearly there are some things. Yeah. There is a lot of enjoyment to just jumping head first and say, wow, okay, let's figure out what this world looks like, you know, what this park looks like. I think the premise of this movie, like I said, not only the fully developed park, also corporate involvement. There is a lot of theming of, with these advancements, the severity of gene manipulation has spiraled out of control and spawns kind of a, if you will, a supervillain dino that is our main focus in this film. It's nothing like the original, but it's also a lot of fun. I will say that. It is a fun movie for this. I mean, it's very cartoonish, but I think it does work. This movie, building on those factors, corporate involvement in dinosaurs, gene manipulation, a developed park, it really does make for the perfect sequel to Jurassic Park 1.
Really?
I think it is a better sequel than both of the sequels in the original trilogy.
Okay. Well, I can see that because it's taking it away. It's not trying to stay so close to the original.
Exactly.
It's acknowledging just like, we're 30. It's almost like they can do what they want a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
guess
it's
taking everything that Hammond says in the first one and says, okay, we've made it work somehow. Let's see what this means in its peak, the heydays of the park.
Okay.
You know
I don't hate that.
Yeah. I think it was really enjoyable. I mean, it's definitely cartoonish in a lot of ways, but this was a highlight for me. I was excited.
I'm more than surprised.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because I watched this one.
Yeah, but think about it. Like, we're jumping into, you know, there's no setup needed. There's no like pulling teeth of why do we have to go back to this clearly dangerous park. Guess what? We've gotten that all out of the way, and we're just finding out, how do our characters work in this world.
Oh, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I think for me, it was the execution, the script, the actors.
Yeah.
The visuals.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I like I said, I don't think it was hugely impressive, but this was a lot better for me. And again, as a sequel to that the ideas of the original, it was doing a good job, mainly because of that pacing. It wasn't prying it open for another sequel. It was confident in going after its own.
And I like that it took a big enough jump. It's a very good point to make, that it made a big enough jump in the plot, and it's not trying to hang on to Jurassic Park. It's just like, oh no, we're in Jurassic World now.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like that.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it quite like that.
Exactly. A much different story because of the establishment of the park around it. We are, like I said, able to jump right into our characters' lives, and as they have these jobs within the park to show us how everything operates, I think it's not nostalgia baity. This movie is trying to be its own film with the ideas of the old films as the foundation. So sure, there are callbacks, but it works differently because these are lines. These are actual, lines in the script that Hammond talks about in the first film.
Yeah.
So seeing that follow through, I thought was very good. And that's, if I had to really fall on the sword for this film, that's where I think it's like a good sequel, because it's taking that and it's saying, okay, we are putting that in front of you now. We realized it.
No, I like that. I do.
Yeah. I would say, I can't stress enough, it just works so much better. There is pacing, there's excitement, there's interest, and it's there organically because it's us curious about how, with, if anything, the prior knowledge of every attempt at establishing this park being catastrophic.
Right.
How are they making it work? I think there is a baseline excitement to seeing even the mundane roles of our characters. Pratt as a Velociraptor trainer, almost like a SeaWorld trainer or something like that. You know what I mean? There's enjoyment to seeing how it works, what is the day-to-day operation to it. So let's get into some actor talk. I will now perform my best Chris Pratt impression for Tom. Would you rate this for me, Tom?
Okay. What is this?
Ladies and gentlemen, I am crouching. My left or my right hand is out in front of me, and this is Chris Pratt for the entirety of this trilogy. Is hand out.
Oh, is it just constant? It's just constant.
It's him leaning down
and go whoa whoa
whoa whoa whoa whoa whoa whoa whoa whoa.
I don't know. I'll give you Tommy Two Shoes for it.
Tommy Two Shoes, fantastic.
So how is, honestly, you know what the one thing I remember is about Chris Pratt? A ridiculous amount of eye makeup.
Oh, really?
Did you notice that or no? It's just me being annoyed by his face.
I don't know.
Okay. Seriously.
Annoyed by his face, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
the gateway in the acting and the actors.
Yeah, Chris Pratt plays a raptor trainer within the park. His work has him cross paths with military lobbyists and looking to weaponize the dinos. Certainly a theme in the original trilogy. I mean, honestly, that felt like what the only thing the original trilogy could do is people wanted to use the dinos for, for weapons.
Right.
Honestly, Pratt, it's not bad. I think in this first film, he's at his best.
Oh boy, nowhere to go but down.
For real. But man, he's just got some of the cheesiest lines I've ever heard. It feels like an 80s movie.
The writing just sucks, huh?
Yeah. It's like really like cheesy one-liners. I don't understand it. Sadly, this only gets worse the more on we go. He just gets cheesier and cheesier, both within the progression of this film and for sequels coming up. It's a little rough. We'll move on to Bryce Dallas Howard, who plays the manager of park operations. Plays a businesswoman that knows her stuff, but is a little green around leading the dinos for the park. I was really much scratching my head over the fact that, like, how is this woman in charge of the entire park but doesn't know, like, basic facts around dinos? But
yeah, right there, I'm annoyed, and I'm out of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it comes to a thing of just like everyone loves Richard Attenborough in it. He's so good, and he's just a believable as a guy who like truly believes in his this creation that he wants. He's all about it, and he is knowing. Yeah. So again, it's like, what's the point? Is it just insulting to? It's like, it's mostly a kids movie, and kids don't care. Like, let's just make everybody you know what I mean? It's just insulting. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about movies, especially like a blockbuster film like this today, where they just suck. The writing and the character development is god awful.
It's rough, and I mean, granted, it really wasn't a highlight of the previous two that we covered, but it really just scratches my head that they give the characters these roles, and nothing is done with it. You know, we don't see to get her be a badass in her own capabilities like we get to see with Pratt. You know, Pratt, we get to see him interacting with the Raptors and everything like that. You know, the whole nine. We don't get to see her have encyclopedic knowledge of the park or its operations or its systems. You know what I mean? And that's just equally how you want to write your character.
Yeah, and it's intentionally done. And that's the thing. It's like, why? It doesn't make sense. Is it the fact that it was just supposed to make corporate idiots? Like, oh, she's in corporate, so she's a moron. She doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah. That's probably it.
But it's just annoying,
It's a shame because, I mean, I think both characters, as the two sides of the coin, have... you know, their prowess, their expertise, but for Howard, it boils down to very idiotic action. How the characters actually interacting with the plot, interacting with the conflict. It's real bad. There's also a very forced romance in this, and I get it. It's
a movie.
Yeah, it's a movie,
but they do it bad.
Yeah, it's a thumbs down for me. I think it's telling that it really doesn't go anywhere for the first two films, and then finally by the third film it's somewhere. So, you know, get used to it, basically. Let's talk effects. Brand new and shiny CGI, but really not flawless. I would say. There is a lot of motion blur. The fast raptor movement, I would say, does not look good. I don't know if it was at a lower frame rate or something like that. I don't know. They were trying to make it look faster than what it was actually.
So they blurred it out?
Yeah, there's like some weird motion blur type of...
Yeah, it makes sense that it looks bad. I'm not surprised.
And really next to no animatronics or puppeteering. The dinos... on the praise side, and I really do mean this is as praise. I think this is a good development, and unfortunately, it's a development in this new trilogy, but slowly takes more and more of the backseat. The dinosaurs are characters now, and I think it really works a lot. I talked about already that there is a cartoonish villain dino that is basically the bad guy of this film. You know, I mean, it's definitely cartoonish, but it's fun. I think it's fun writing, and it really makes actually some engagement in a popcorn blockbuster film.
Okay.
We see this as well in Pratt's best friend Raptor named Blue, which is an ongoing character for all three of these movies. Okay. And... you know, I mean, I'm not saying it's like, oh man, Blue, what a great character, man, what a raptor, you know.
Right.
No, but it is a development that I think is fun for younger audiences, and I can definitely respect having fun in the writing to give characterization to dinosaurs where everything in that first trilogy is that we should be hating these dinos. There is no chance of camaraderie, and they are here to kill us. I like that bridge being open, and definitely plays into the development of the park, that there's training, there's relationship, you know. These park professionals are looking to connect with animals. There's a naturalism theme there.
I like that. That's fine, yeah.
Yeah. It's there, but then very simply, the film is very much about putting dinosaur versus dinosaur fights on screen. And, you know, for a movie that has these themes through it, you know, especially towards later in the movie, these cheesy one-liners, this kind of, you know, cartoonish writing, it all reaches ahead. I think by the end of this film, it's still enjoyable enough for me to give it a pass, but I definitely do think it is a slippery slope. Another slippery slope is that for a film about kind of corporate ethics and drama in gene manipulation, it does not hold back on the ads. We have Mercedes in full effect, and Jimmy Fallon, too, of all people.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon is in this. I saw this. What is he doing in this? Is he full on Jimmy Fallon, too?
No, he's...
is he drunk?
Savage, Tom. Savage. No, he's in like a tutorial on one of the vehicles. They have like these hamster ball vehicles.
So he's
yeah. He's like He's like, it's actually crazy because in this movie, this tutorial demonstration, he shoots the hamster ball with a bullet and it deflects it. In the second one, they break one of the hamster balls by shooting it with a gun. It's just bad
continuity.
Bad continuity, but yeah, that's nitpicking. That's too much. But jokes aside, honestly, I was really happy with this film. This film feels like a true sequel to JP1 for how much it develops on. It may not resemble Jurassic Park 1 in story, but honestly, none of these films do. So, there's no sense in saying, of Jurassic Park being the holy grail. There's no sense in saying, oh, well, it's still not there. I think this film uses enough of Jurassic Park 1 as the foundation in nearly every concept that's introduced. It may not be successful as the original sequels in the hype around it, but I really do think it's successful in a story and not being inorganically pried open. I was happy with a lot of what this film did, and if you have to choose one film to have as a follow-up to Jurassic Park 1, this is my choice for, the daily ratings watch list of the Jurassic Park movies. We're going to go ahead and give Jurassic World a 70 on the dot.
Okay, I'm a little surprised.
What's the Tommy Two Shoes?
I don't have a Tommy Two. I can't remember. Like I said, the only thing I remember is the weird makeup around Chris Pratt's eyes. I mean, I don't have much. I probably fell asleep actually halfway through this film.
Yeah.
Or I turned it off. Okay, 70. I should go back and maybe give it a watch.
I'm telling you, as far as, again, what it's building on, I think there's a lot of excitement about this, and again, to that original Jurassic Park vision. I think this was I
like that, yeah.
Pretty decent movie, so.
Okay, all right, so we're going to keep it going then. So we're in the second installment of the new trilogy. It's film 5, I guess, technically. This is now 2018, so 3 years in advance. This is Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom. And what do we get with this second installment with Chris Pratt here?
Yep. So we have second installment with Chris Pratt.
That's pretty much what it is, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We have J.A. Bayona directing this as kind of the awkward middle child of the sequel trilogy. No experience with him either, but he does have a role in the new Lord of the Rings series, which we will, of course, be keeping our eye on.
Yeah.
No thoughts on that, Tom?
Not yet.
That'll be brewing. JW2 is a direct sequel 3 years later in the universe, and nearly all characters returning. This film is kind of 2 movies in one, and that is a bad trend coming up for our final movie as well. I don't know what writing-wise, why they want to kind of fit 2 movies in one, but it's very odd. First, the island from JW1 has a volcano going critical and threatening to wipe out all dinos, but that only lasts for the first half, and the story transforms into something very different for the later half. I won't go into it because I think that is very plainly into spoilers, but there is really a kind of a genre swap halfway through this movie, which is interesting.
Like it just turns?
Yeah, it just becomes an entirely different movie. At first I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Certainly fresh and certainly new.
Right.
In ways it feels like a lot of what Jurassic Park 2 was trying to do towards its finale as well, but it's not great. There's some slight fall through on the naturalism themes of JW1, but this pivot through halfway the film, it's just too drastic and just builds on the cartoony nature of the writing of this series. I mean, it really were in full started cartoonish bad guy mustache twirling and it's no good.
That sucks.
It does suck. Bryce Dallas Howard is back and turned from soulless corpo to non-profit activist. A little rough then on my notes there. Oof. She has a crew of new activists with her, and they are just the worst. These are young adult inserts replacing the usual kids in these films. So once again, I was seeing that and I was like, okay, they clearly...
So the kids aren't returning?
No, there's no... Yeah.
The
kid slot that is in all of these films is replaced with these young actors, young adult actors now.
Okay, gotcha.
It is Justice Smith from Detective Pikachu, the main kid, and Daniela Pineda,
yeah.
who was most recently in the Cowboy Bebop live action. And honestly, they both are terrible. Nothing more needs to be said.
Oh.
I mean, it's really god awful. I mean, and that's even my judgments of the Cowboy Bebop live action.
And that's
side.
acting and writing? Just it's a failure on all
Yeah,
fronts?
just very annoying, like outwardly annoying,
Okay.
and designed to be annoying, and an implementation is annoying. So,
Okay.
yeah. Chris Pratt is chilling out, I guess. He's just kind of doing his thing. You know, the fact that he gets involved in this is obviously going to be tied to his best friend Raptor Blue. And we see that even just in this second film being stretched to its limits. Like, why would this guy agree to this, you know, to this extent, you know? And once again, we have sequelitis kind of coming into play. It's just even let's say you hated Jurassic World 1. It's just trying to pry open why these characters would even give a damn about this place,
Okay.
you know? And it's just, there's so much startup and lag in the beginning. It's just... Ugh. He's still chock full of the cheesiest lines I have ever heard. Like I said,
why would you do that? What?
I don't know.
It's bad writing. Is it just bad writing?
Yeah, it's like 80s.
And why?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's there. Like I said, there's a volcano going off on the island. That's really the boogeyman of the opening plot. And he says, someone says it's hot on the island, and he says it's about to get a lot hotter, and the volcano explodes behind him. It's just like, what?
Maybe it doesn't
this
matter.
happen?
Their box office massive successes, and apparently that it just
That's
doesn't
true.
matter.
That's
I'm
true.
still in the boat of saying that Marvel broke good cinema.
Yeah,
But
this definitely would be. Yeah, I think that's a dead on read. Though.
It broke the minds of people watching because now Marvel is now in the bounds of a good movie,
right?
So this it's just like, oh, I mean, it's a box office success, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
He's and maybe even superhero-ish. He's turning and giving these lines to the camera, you know, explosions behind him. I think you're
Kids
dead
don't
on.
need that. Kids don't need super stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kids actually want a little bit more of an adult theme. They want to be adults, really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, but
It's insulting.
It is. I mean, like I said, maybe if you're looking at this as very cartoonish, stylized Jurassic Park, maybe it's getting worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it was endearing in JW1, it is now getting worse in JW2, and it gets...
Oh, yeah.
We'll get there. And for some reason, the romance between Pratt and Howard is restarted. Once again, to the sequelitis point, it is grinded to a halt, and for some reason... they are no longer together. We just restart their romance relationship. So it's like, why, I mean, that's the type of thing where I will blame writing entirely, because you're not even using what's in your ammo belt. You're not even using what you have built up. Exactly. Yeah. There's no build up. You're tracking back, So I don't know if they worried about people not seeing the first one and just jumping into this one. Perhaps that's a reason why you would do that writing.
I don't know.
So
that just sounds bad.
Yeah.
That sounds idiotic.
Absolutely. Ugh. Yeah. Like I said, this is sequelitis. Once again, not to overuse that, but I mean, we're dealing with a franchise deep dive here. So
right.
It is really a great example of how it can shoot the pacing in the foot. In World 1, we are quickly into the park. Our characters are in full effect. The park is in full swing. Okay. We're right into the action. Yeah. World 2, we got to catch up with our characters, establish the stakes, then build the action on the island. Then we got to build the action when the movie restarts halfway through for some godforsaken reason. It's just real bad. It's inherently slower. It's much weaker on execution, and it doesn't help the poor writing. There's some really backward logic to, even when they get in full swing with the plot, their plan for the evacuation of the island for this volcano going off. I mentioned already a cartoonish villain. The logic of our characters, it is a trinity of stupid in this film. It is real bad.
So are you just frustrated while watching?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I would say on that the cartoonish villain side, again, I think it speaks volumes that I preferred a a non-speaking dinosaur as a cartoon villain than the actual actor. This film delivers probably our worst villain yet in the entire trilogy, or even the entire 6 movies, as kind of a business bad guy played by Rafi Spall. Again, much like Julianne Moore, much like some of the other actors, I was lamenting that I was sad to see them in bad roles. This as well. I like this actor quite a bit. He stars in my favorite Black Mirror episode, which is the Christmas special.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know what I mean? He plays this, the most cartoonish, bad businessman.
Which is bad.
He's like... his love of money is unmatched. Is unmatched. It's so weird.
Jeff Goldblum returns.
Oh, very, very quick cameo.
Okay.
A very quick cameo. He's
That's not a spoiler, is it?
No.
Right,
He's actually right in the beginning and right at the end. They bookend him. Yeah. So, but yeah, and actually no real impact on the plot, I would say, either.
They just put him in there for face.
Exactly.
You know who I love is like in almost all of these Jurassic Park movies is B.D. Wong.
Oh yes, he's in every one. He's the main scientist.
I do really like that.
I was gonna say, I was gonna bring him up in some of the reviews, where it's just like, well, he's in every one, so I don't even need to talk about it.
Just the continuity of that, I've always appreciated. And for those of you, he's the Asian scientist kind of, and he just evolves into more important kind of in leadership almost.
Which is surprising he doesn't spin it to be a more more successful scientist. He's always under someone for some reason, where he's clearly the key to making these dinosaurs work at all. So. But anyway. Right from the very first one, and I honestly, he's great in the first one. He answers the question of any kind of nitpicking nerd would say oh, the dinosaurs are actually like birds, or they should have feathers, and he's like, no, we made them frogs. Right? It's great. It's great. But yeah, it's a real shame that the storyline is pretty unique because it drastically transforms in this genre and style halfway through. And I mean, it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't stick the landing. I was more upset watching this movie because it does pull something out so unique halfway through, but the characters are not enjoyable to watch on screen. The dinosaurs, maybe unique action sequences, but not great. Yeah. And the writing just gets, almost compounding on its cartoonishness. As the time goes on in the film, I think it reminded me of some of the fun I had in JW1, but sadly it just gets weaker and weaker as it goes on and is just simply not worth your time. We're going to go ahead and give Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom a 34.
Ooh, all right. That's more like it. That's where we should be. Yeah, 34. Okay.
You were surprised by Jurassic World being in the 70s. 70 on the dot.
It did. It surprised me. That surprised me, and your 38 of The Last World surprised me.
Oh, true.
True. But okay, all right. So now for the Big Daddy.
Daddy, right.
I mean, this has been teased and talked about for how long? This is our new movie, our new release, 2022. It's a blockbuster here. We have a Jurassic World Dominion. And this is our longest one. This is our third one, our sixth one.
How long is this clock in?
This is 2 hours and 26 minutes.
Oh.
And what do we have here? It's the cast of all casts. This is what they think we've all been waiting for.
Oh, for sure.
What did we get with this film? Really?
So once again, it is a direct sequel to the events of JW2. I would say with JW2 being so bad, but that's probably one of the first stumbles that this film can do, because it really is just right off the events of that.
Okay.
And not only is a bad movie now required homework for watching this sequel, and I really mean that. I mean, there's too many callbacks. It is right in line with it. And that on top of it as well, I mean, is one of many stumbles in this film. The dinos are loose around the world, and it goes beyond military and corporate involvement. These films warned us through. Dinos are a part of life now, and I have to admit that is a little bit of a cool backdrop.
The follow-through is there.
Yeah, I like this. I like the fact that there is a sci-fi story being crafted with just dinosaurs being peppered throughout.
Right.
it honestly feels once again like what Jurassic Park wanted to have by the end. It really
or the fear of it, correct?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. They wanted to have this incorporation of dinosaurs at home, but Jurassic Park 2, I just think maybe the budget wasn't there all the way to follow through on that. Or
well, I mean, it's like a big.
Yeah,
it's quite a large thing that it's a big movie. You're trying
maybe the tech just wasn't there, for the CGI wise.
Yeah,
as well,
or they didn't think they had to go that big. I mean, this is kind of bonkers.
Yeah. The themes of activism here are increased with many of the dinos displaced and poached. So, while I enjoyed that setup and the setting, unfortunately is where the bulk of my praise ends with this film. JW3 has a storyline split down the middle, and I really mean that. It is split 50-50 to accommodate not only what's going on in the storyline for Team Pratt, but also how they insert now our 3 main original crew from Jurassic Park 1 inserted into a B plot chock full of nostalgia bait.
Okay.
I'm fine with movies having a split focus. I mean, talking about blockbuster wise, you even talk about Star Wars. Very successful back at the ranch writing. What that means is, we're on one storyline. What's happening back at the ranch? Go to plot B.
Meanwhile, on
exactly. So when it comes to that, I'm not saying that has to be such a mind trip to juggle both storylines. But I think where this fails is that each of these individual plot lines are just so drastically different in tone because you have now full blown action on new team.
Okay.
And old team is like kind of a conspiracy comedy. It's
what?
Like, oh yeah, it's
Are they back at like your typical archaeologist type nerds?
Kind of. Well, they have to get together first.
Okay.
It's a little bit odd. Like I said, I mean, we'll call this new team and old team. That's how I'll refer to it as.
How much build-up? How much building was there in the beginning of this to set things up again? Like, you have to set up where our relationship is again, and then where we are in the modern trilogy. Then we have to set up where our old characters are. There has to be times setting them up, right?
And that's where I say the homework is necessary for that second film because there's no training wheels on where we check in on Team Pratt, new team.
Yeah.
And if anything, it hits the ground running, which, again, not a bad thing, but unfortunately, that second movie is not good.
Right.
Old team is where you get a lot of that catch up. Where have they been for the past 30 years? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where's Laura Dern been, who was not in any of the sequels? You know what I mean? So
very true.
Yeah, it's tough. With the new team plot, it is structured like against all odds. I mean, it is structured like a Jason Bourne or Taken style action espionage. I kid you not. Tom's giving me a look.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no.
It is very odd. We have. We're picking up with Pratt and Howard living their best dino lives, and they are thrusted into the action. Probably most unbelievably, again, Howard. And I don't really mean to really shit on her acting, but she's just not good in any one of these. This one probably most unbelievable because the performance is so much like we're trying to. The film is trying to, I would say the plot is trying to cast her as a mother. She's kind of shaking loose her career focused life, and she's now caring about people more and yada yada.
Yeah.
And then she just flicks on the action hero switch out of nowhere, and it's just like whenever the plot needs it. You know what I mean? There's no stakes to it. There's no seriousness.
She's not a believable character.
Yeah,
she's not a believable character.
Self-described, not an action hero. So when she turns on the action hero, when the plot demands it, it's like, it's really bad. It's real bad. And then we got the old team embarking on nostalgia quest.
Was it good to see them, the three of them?
Yes, it was. I won't be too mean, but they reunite the three scientists after years apart. I would say it's kind of a comedy in ways just because Goldblum is just great. I mean,
he is.
He just leads it. Sam Neill isn't, he's kind of being his normal grumpy self, but Goldblum and Laura Dern are great together. They're like
Laura Dern is good.
Yes.
I have not liked her lately.
Sure.
Oh my god, Star Wars, right? That was her with the purple hair.
Oh, you're right.
God, awful.
Last Jedi.
Talk about a horrible character. Anyway, that's good to see she's good in this.
Yes, yeah, and there's a lot of chemistry there. And then Goldblum is just this is not a cameo anymore like it was in JW2.
He's in it.
Oh yeah, he's in it. So
that's awesome.
And like is great. Like
is he really?
He's top notch. I'm pretty sure they just let him do improv the entire time, which usually I'm not a fan of. Goldblum can get away with it. So, but once again, it's just such a drastically different plot. They are not dealing with any kind of action. They are in a facility around, the where some dinosaurs are being created, more gene manipulation, and they come across this plot around locust swarm and crops and like a corporate cover up, and it's kind of like light and funny and. It's not bad. It really isn't bad.
Is it kind of like all right?
Yeah, it's kind of like I think my point is that both of these sides are kind of all right, but the fact that they're together is like
weird.
It's whiplash.
Yeah.
It's wild. Like
is it are three characters, because they have been so staunchly impacted by 30 years ago? Are they still in the boat of like, we cannot be doing this? Like they do not have a place here. Like we need to.
Yeah, it's not as expounded upon as much as I would like. I would really love if, with the dinos getting loose to the world, we come into them saying we've dealt with this before and we're going to deal with this now in some sort of way.
Almost like they're the experts coming in.
Yeah, but it's really not given a lot of time to develop. Basically, they have all been living their normal lives and adapting to the dinos, as everyone has.
Okay,
basically.
gotcha.
So,
all right.
Yeah, it's just a shame because I can't stress enough, both of these plots could really exist on their own, and specifically for the old team plot, probably be half good on its own,
Yeah.
Probably
it's making me want to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
But there is little interweaving to the two plots, and by the time these two teams converge, it just feels very rushed, and we are already at the conclusion. There's also a very, very awkward meetup scene between new team and old team, and like no words are said between them. It's like, what is going on? It made me feel like they were on different sets. They were on different sound stages, and they just like edited them together. It was
so fun. Not good. Not exactly what you wanted to see if you're a fan of the first and second trilogy. It's not what you're looking for.
And if anything, leaning right into your Marvel comparisons, it has this idea of just like, teams are coming together.
Yeah.
And we have like, 8 people on screen, none of which are going to die because they all have plot armor.
Right.
It's just like, okay, all right. So you might be asking, where are the hell the dinos in all of this? And I would say a slightly cool aspect of this is that they really are sprinkled throughout the world. For instance, in the new team plot, they encounter some scary criminal. I think it's like Madrid or something like that. Again, it's very Jason Bourne, and they encounter these scary criminal types, and instead of attack dogs, they're using dinosaurs. I think that's cool.
Sure,
I think
I don't understand. I don't know if it's going to give away spoilers, but what is this time frame of? In the new trilogy, we still had these dinosaurs set in a park.
Yes,
and then you said this one is
second one was 3 years later. This one I think is 5. I think they say 5.
I was going to say, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So it's 5 years of people getting used to dinos.
Kind of, yeah.
And everyone's cool. Everyone's just like, we'll just use them in 5 years. Oh, yeah, there are attack dogs now.
Yeah. If anything, they are... The dinos are being abused, and that's where I say, like, the naturalism.
Okay.
The World trilogy is about naturalism. I think it's corporate involvement, getting involved with dinosaurs, which, granted, that was kind of the original trilogy as well.
No, for sure, yeah.
Or at least one theme.
Yeah.
This is a little bit more simple.
Right.
There's only one. I will say, as cartoonish as that may sound, of having attack dinos,
it's kind of fun to watch.
It is fun. That really is, my summary of these later 3 movies. Like, there are fun aspects, and
your inner kid comes out a little bit.
Yeah. There's fun writing. There's the type of writing that I would want to be a part of. So as unique as that world is for that reason, it's also not a Jurassic Park movie anymore. Like even anywhere resembling a Jurassic Park movie, there is just simply not enough dinosaurs. I think for one, that sprinkling, though it may be cool in concept for world building, it's also not a lot of dinosaurs, which I think is kind of a whole different type of failure that we didn't even have to come across with any of these other movies.
You're absolutely right.
So
and
it's
you think you just have dinosaurs everywhere?
Downs. Yeah,
you think they would just be everywhere?
Yeah. It's some serious ups and downs, and it's a shame more than anything with this third one because it's a lot of the ups have some serious potential, and like even you said, you're getting excited hearing about some of this. There are some good nuggets here, but I feel it's just pulled in just like every direction.
Okay.
It's a lot. So what continues is definitely the one-upsmanship of the franchise, or at least this sequel trilogy franchise of rarer and rarer dinos.
All right.
I would say, again, it would be cool. Maybe if I was a dinosaur buff, I'd be really swooned by this stuff. It really just boils down to they see something, they say the name, and then they say a line like, oh, it's bigger than a T-Rex, or it's smarter than a raptor. And that's like almost comically every setup.
Right,
like
they need
that.
to just build it up for you. They need to try to just sell you on like, oh, no, seriously, it's scary.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going
big,
on. Yeah.
So, again, I mention it... a little bit salt and pepper, a little bit 50-50, just because, folks at home, if you are very passionate about dinosaurs and maybe even the new developments in discovering new dinosaurs, these films are catering to that. They are catering with the progression of the actual timeline of the story. They're making more discoveries about dinosaurs through, their tools. So there is some enjoyment there. So maybe a little bit of praise. But I cannot begin to talk about how blah this writing is. There's just no stakes. It's all predictable. Like I said already, there is a chock full of plot armor. I think the key problem with the writing is, once again, what was present in JW2. The main villain is so idiotic. It is borderline incompetent. We have, once again, another business professional bad guy, which is obviously no stranger to what we've been talking about so far. Campbell Scott plays our corporate bad guy. Maybe not big a fan of him. I mean, I liked him in like House of Cards and shit like that, but wow, it is just lacking any sort of menace. Very, very dry. I just feel like this movie had a lot of potential, but I mean, I'm not going to put it lightly. It really shit the bed.
I wonder if did it have potential? I don't even know if it had potential.
I think it has potential even when you're watching it.
Okay,
there's glimpses. There's and I mean that, glimpses in both sides. You can say, "Oh, I only want the old," or I only care about what have been invested so far with Pratt's team in this new trilogy. But there is good nuggets in both sides. But the meshing and the execution, it is no good. More than anything, though, I think these sequels try to be too much of a story together and failing to understand what that first movie had as a strength in pacing and setup. I mean, I think in the conclusion to the character story, if that is the point of the sequels in Jurassic Worlds, understand the writing has never been the strong suit here, and unfortunately, I don't think this one is worth your time either. We're going to go ahead and give Jurassic World a 47.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jurassic World Dominion.
Yeah.
JW3.
A 47%. Okay. Yeah. I'm almost surprised that it got a 47. Yeah, not lower. But that's good to hear.
It clocked in a lot lower for me initially, but I think again there's nuggets of good all over. It's just in execution is bad. So
wow. Okay, Vin. So this was great homework. This was a special in and of itself. Yeah. I mean, last week we had the Star Trek special, which was 6 movies, and this is just a special.
Yeah.
But we don't make it a special just because it's a new in theaters.
Exactly.
It's a lot of watching. It's a lot of homework that you went through. Is there anything you would like to add now? Any conclusions, or are we rolling credits on
I
this?
think the conclusion is the daily ratings watch list for the Jurassic Park franchise. Watch JP1 for a great movie. Watch JW1 if you're craving more dinos and maybe some updated effects. Leave everything else alone. You do not need to see a T-Rex roar into the screen at the end of all 6 of these movies. And I saw a T-Rex roar into the screen for 6 movies in a row. All
right, Vin. Vin, we appreciate you coming by. We appreciate these scores from you. Folks at home, we're going to run this down one more time here. We have Jurassic Park with an 81%, The Lost World Jurassic Park with a 38%, Jurassic Park 3 with a 40%, Jurassic World with a 70%, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom with a 34%, and Jurassic World Dominion with a 47%. Folks, we thank you so much for watching, and we thank to Anonymous for being our producer this week on the Daily Ratings, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you'd just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you receive from us. You'll get a producer mention on the next podcast episode, too. We're looking to build this into something large and great, but also be independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast.